Friends, welcome to the channel JIV and CIV Made Simple. Today we are going to quickly revise our module C of cybercrime and fraud management, which is an certification course offered by IIBF. If you are looking to quickly revise the important points from module C as per the syllabus prescribed, you are at the right place because we are going to discuss important points, only bullet points that will help you quickly memorize the important points. So vast till the next 60 minutes, I will provide you all the important contents, and through this you will be able to revise everything. So let's get started. Our first unit is online transaction. Have you ever wondered what really happened when you shop online? Let's break it down in simple word. An online transaction is also called e-commerce, is nothing but buying or selling goods and services on the internet. The fun part is everything happen electronically, no face-to-face meeting of buyer and seller. Now to keep money safe, we have something called OLTP, that is called online transaction processing. It works with password or security checks to make fund are transferred safely. But online shipping is just one part of the bigger picture, that is called e-business. So the term was first introduced in the year 1996, and it covers all kind of business activity done through the internet, in short the digital marketplace. Now, and yes, every online transaction follows some step. The first one is authentication. We are going to discuss it. So what we have covered here, I told you that online transaction means buying and selling over the internet. OLTP keeps the money safe, right? And e-business means complete internet-based business. It was started in the year 1996, and the first step of the online transaction is the authentication. Now, friends, what is so basically what about what exactly an online transaction is? They are also known as e-commerce. Right, we talked about the e-business. So what are the steps in the online transaction? Authentication, order processing and completion. Right, these are the steps in the online business. So authentication means you verify the user credential. Order processing means payment authorization and order confirmation. That is called order processing. Completion means successful fund transfer. Right. Now, e-commerce, the digital trade. So what's the meaning of e-commerce? Let's understand. So e-business is a short for electronic business, right? It covers all the business activity happening online. OLTP, what is the full form? Online transaction processing. It is a secure password protected system that makes sure that your money is safely transferred without the internet. So every time you shop online, whether it is ordering food, booking ticket or buying cloth, you are doing an online transaction where fund move electronically over the web. Then comes m-commerce. M-commerce you call it, or mobile commerce, right? It simply means buying and selling goods or services using your smartphone or even device like PDAs. Basically shopping in your pocket. Now let's quickly see the three stages of online transaction. First is called pre-purchase, which means the product or service is displayed online with details. Then we have the purchase stage, where you like something, add it and pay online. And finally delivery, which means the item finally reaches your doorstep. And yes, there are three main steps involved in every online transaction. The first you have to do is registration, means you create an account on the website, add your email, name, address, right? Then we have placing an order, which means once you find a product you like, you add it to the shopping cart, and this cart keep track of all the items. And the third step is payment. Payment means what? You should basically you choose how you want to pay, right? Placing an order. And third case is payment. You choose how to make the payment: credit card, debit card, UPI, net banking. So remember, m-commerce means mobile based buying and selling. Three stages are there: pre-purchase, purchase and delivery. Three steps, stages and steps. Steps are registration, online order placement and payment. So all the payments are secured with the encryption for safety. So what are the way in which you can make this payment? The first step we have is the COD. So now that you know how online transaction work, let's talk about the different way you can make payment. First we have cash on delivery. This is the most popular one. You order something online and pay when it arrives at your doorstep, right? The payment can be check to the seller. Once the check clear, the seller dispatches the product. Net banking transfer, in this case the money moved directly from the buyer bank account through the seller account over the internet. Then we have credit or debit card payment. You enter your card detail and the amount is directly deducted from your account. It is very quick and also easy. And finally, digital cash. So this is electronic money that exists only in cyberspace. Your bank money is converted into a special code and then stored on a chip, card or computer. When you make a purchase, you just use that code and the transaction is completed. So cash on delivery, check, net banking, credit or debit card. These are the different way of making the payment. Now, online payment. What is the meaning of online payment? Basically, online payment simply means paying for goods and service using the internet. And the best part is that it cut down the cost for business because no paper or no postage is required. Plus, once your details are saved on the site, you are more likely to shop there again, making it super convenient. And yes, it saves your time. No standing in long queue at bank or ATM. Just one click and your payment is done. That is why almost every bank now offer online bill payment 24 into 7. Now one more thing is that digital payment go one step further, right? How? Here both the payer and the payee use the digital mode. So no cash involved at all. Everything is done electronically, instantly and securely. This can be through debit card, credit card, internet banking, mobile banking, or even UPI. So let's look at two popular methods that we have. Credit card. Credit card issued by the bank. They let you pay now and repay later. Interest start if you don't clear your dues after a month, and your spending limit depends on your credit score. That is the beauty about the credit card. Then we have the debit card. Debit card also called the ATM card, right? And this is linked to your bank account. Whenever you swipe or whenever you enter your PIN, right, the money is directly deducted from your balance. If you don't have enough fund, the transaction simply won't go through. So online payment is the internet based, cost saving, time saving. Digital payment means no cash, fully electronic, instant. Credit card, borrow now, repay later. And debit card means money deducted directly from your account balance. Now we have something, so this thing we have discussed. Yes, let's discuss the e-wallet. So friends, let's explore more digital payment method, right, that make our life easier. The first one is called e-wallet. So you can think of the e-wallet like a digital purse inside your phone or computer. It has two parts. First one is the software component that keeps your data safe with encryption, and the second one is the information component that store your data, card data, PIN and payment information. So the next time you pay with an e-wallet, remember it is your digital purse at work. Next we have the smart card. So a smart card, this is also called a stored value card, right? It looks like a credit card but it has a microchip inside. That is called a smart card, a stored value card, right? The chip store your money and the personal detail. You can recharge it from time to time and the money stay protected with encryption and password. And then we have the Paytm. So Paytm launched in the year 2010. Paytm stands for payment through mobile. So it started with mobile recharge and bill payment. But today it has grown into India's largest mobile commerce platform, offering shopping, ticket booking, bill payment, much more. So e-wallet means your digital purse storing card detail and payment. A smart card is the card with a chip storing encrypted money and information. And Paytm is the India's largest mobile payment platform. It started in the year 2010. Now let's talk about the e-banking. So e-banking is also called the virtual banking. This is also called electronic banking. This lets you manage your bank account completely online. You can transfer money, check balance, pay bill and handle transaction all from your bank website without stepping into a branch. So friends, I hope e-banking is clear. You can do anything, transfer money, check balance, pay bill and handle transactions using the e-banking. Next we have is the e-check. E-check is called electronic check. Just like a paper check but smarter and safer. It work online. It follow the same law. It come with extra protection like authentication as well as the digital signature to make your money stay secure. Now the question is, why are digital payment becoming so popular? Let's see the advantage. Right. First one, they are easy and convenient. No need to carry bundle of cash. Just use your phone, card or Aadhaar. You can pay from anywhere, anytime. Even at midnight, you can instantly transfer money to a friend in need. The government give discount, right? For example, no service tax on payment under 2000 rupees, right? And the best part is, automatic return record, which means, every payment is saved in your passbook or app, helping you track spending. So e-banking means handling your account online. E-check means digital version of check with more security. An advantage of the digital payment are easy, convenient, pay anytime, discount, automatic and record. Now some of the types of basically e-commerce are as follow. First one is the B2B. So these are the types, right? Disadvantage is given, advantage is given, what are the downsides, and now let's talk about some of the types, right? Like B2B. B2B means business to business. So it means when two company deals with each other. For example, a manufacturing or selling raw material to a wholesaler. It improve efficiency because business work directly with each other online. That is called B2B, right? Between the transaction between the two business company. B2C. This is the most common. Like when you buy from Amazon or Flipkart. Here the online sell, right? Basically seller sell directly to you, the final customer. That is called B2C. Then C2C, consumer to consumer. So what is consumer to consumer? Where one person sell to another person. Think of OLX or eBay, where people can send second-hand item directly to the other buyer. And then we have C2B, that is called consumer to buyer. So here the role flip. Instead of business selling to customer, individual provide product and services to the business, right? And finally C2A. What is C2A? C2A is called consumer to administration. So this is where individual interact digitally with the government. For example, paying tax or applying online for document. So B2B, business to business. B2C, business to customer. C2C, consumer to consumer. Then C2B, consumer to business. And finally C2A, consumer to administration. Let's talk about B2A in detail. So B2A, this means all the online transaction between the company and the government. For example, when the business file taxes or when the business file licenses online. That is B2A. C2C, already I told you, consumer to consumer, like OLX, right? Or you are selling the old phone. Then B2C is the business to consumer. This is the most common one where you saw from the icon. I think we have discussed it already. Friends, if you are looking for study material for the cybercrime and prevention of the fraud management elective, this certification course, you can WhatsApp me on the number 8292857381, or in the description section of this particular video you will see the course link. You can directly purchase the course, install our app, and can access the premium content which includes unit wise theory, 2000 plus MCQs, as well as the previous year memory based question. They will surely help you in the upcoming examination, as it has helped many aspirant in the past to crack the paper in their first attempt. Now comes a very important part, which is the consumer protection, right? Consumer protection, how consumer get protected. Here you will see data privacy, right? Data privacy and security. Let's understand it. So when we shop online, two things matter the most: consumer protection and data privacy. So first of all, Consumer Protection Act, right? So this act, this law ensure that customer, right, get fair treatment and good quality product. It also gives the right to complain and can claim compensation if something goes wrong. For business, this means that they must clearly mention the product detail, prices, delivery timeline, return policy. If not, they can face lawsuit, heavy fine, and even damage to their reputation. So that is called Consumer Protection Act, right? Then comes the data privacy and security. Every time we shop online, we share personal detail like phone number, address, and bank information. That is why business must use secure server and encryption to protect the data in India. Law like the IT Act and the Personal Data Protection Bill make it mandatory to safeguard the consumer information. So let's remind the key point which we have covered. So I told you Consumer Protection Act, it ensures quality, fairness, and compensation right. Must clear the details regarding price, delivery, return, and finally data privacy, which means protect the personal and financial information using the secure system. That is called data privacy. And finally Indian law like IT Act and the Personal Data Protection Bill. These are the Indian law. Now friends, let's talk about the taxation. You think GST, IGST, these are the taxation policy. It affects our financial viability, and business must adhere to the tax law to avoid penalty. Then we have IPR. These are the legal consideration for e-commerce. IPR stands for intellectual property right, to protect the trademark, patent, and copyright. Consumer protection, then data privacy, taxes and compliance. We have discussed in detail about this thing. Now friends, let's see the unit number 10, which is regarding the global payment processing. Have you ever wondered how money moves so easily across country? That is the magic of global payment processing. Earlier, sending money abroad meant long form, high bank charges, extra fee for currency conversion. But today, thanks to the global payment processor, the process is fast, smooth and cheaper. Think of them like a bridge between two countries. And what is their role? Their role is to help merchant receive money from the foreign customer. Their role is to coordinate with the customer bank, even if it is miles away. And finally, to convert currency instantly so that the payment reaches in the right format. So the next time you buy something from another country in a business, right, basically paying a foreign supplier, remember, global payment processor are silently working behind the scene to make it seamless, right? So remember, global payment processing means easy international money transfer. Earlier it was slow and costly with many charges, but today it is faster and cheaper and hassle free. And what is the role of processor? You know what is the role of global payment processor? Remember it: connect bank, handle payment, and finally they convert currency. You can see now, merchant to foreign customer, connecting the bank, then issuing the bank coordination, handle payment, and finally the conversion of the currency. These are the three role of the payment connector. Okay, global, this is called global payment processor, to be more precise. Now let's break down how the global payment processor work. There, let's look at the key stage. First one, the company must first set up a legal entity in the country where it operates. That is called legal entity setup. Without this, it could be face penalty. Then comes the international transfer. So moving money across border always involve the transaction fee, but global processor help minimize them, right? And then we have payroll processing, which means paying employee abroad manually is a headache because of the fluctuating exchange rate. But the global payment processor handle this automatically, right? Depositing salary directly into the local account with correct currency conversion. These are the steps. Now the question is, why are these processors so important? Let's understand. Because they save money by cutting transfer fee. Because they provide a strong security and fraud detection. Because they ensure quick, accurate and safe payment worldwide. That's why this payment processor are so much important. These are the three important roles: cost efficiency, enhanced security, fraud prevention, automated currency conversion. These are the role of the global payment processor, right? In short, global payment processor made international business transactions simple, cost effective and secure. So we have talked about the three stages. Let me just recapitulate. First one is the legal setup, second is the international transfer, and third is the payroll processing. And the benefit we have talked about, benefit are cost efficiency, security, fraud prevention and currency conversion. Now friends, SaaS based payment solution. Have you ever heard of SaaS based payment solution? These are the global payment processor that work just like a software service. Business pay based on how many transactions they make and how often. Based on that, business pay. Let's understand the global payment system. Basically, these payment system allow company to handle transaction in multiple currency. Global payment system allow company to handle transaction in multiple currency. And these are super important in today's global economy. But what exactly is a payment system? What defines a payment system? Think of it as a full setup that move money safely across border. Right, it move money safely across the border. It includes institutional and technology like bank, payment gateway and digital app. It includes the rules and standards that ensure that everything follow regulation. And finally, it includes the people and the process or procedure who manage the secure flow of money. So in short, we can say that this global payment system are the backbone of international business, making transaction efficient, secure and compliant. So just now we are talking about SaaS based payment processor, which is subscription style global payment. This is a kind of subscription style the global payment. Global payment system handle multiple currency worldwide. Component includes institution and technology, rules and standards, peoples and procedure. And the benefit is efficiency. It is quite helpful in efficiency, security and compliance. You can see now these are the benefits: confidentiality, fraud prevention, accurate currency conversion. Let's talk about the global payment system, right? So I told you that this is the secret behind the smooth cross-border transaction. Yes, how the smooth cross-border transaction maintained via the global payment system. Imagine a business paying supplier or vendor in different country. A global payment system make this easy by acting as a secure bridge between the buyer and the seller. And the three key benefits of the global payment system is, first of all, confidentiality means your bank detail and the amount are stay protected. Then we have fraud prevention, which means built-in security protocol that stop the scams, and accuracy, accurate currency conversion, which means it ensure that payment are done in the right currency without error. Now friends, here is the best part. This system run as AAS, that is called software as a service. That means business don't need expensive in-house infrastructure. They simply pay based on their transaction volume, business type and industry. So what we have talked just now, global payment system, it is a smooth international payment. Benefit is confidentiality, fraud prevention, accurate conversion. And SaaS model just now we talked about, software as a service, which is cheaper, pay as you go, no heavy setup is required. Now friends, one question is ensuring global payment software, global secure global payment. When it comes to global payment, security is everything. Payment can happen in two ways, either physical transaction like swiping your debit card or credit card at the POS machine, or online transfer through bank or digital payment platform. But the real game changer is transparency and monitoring. So global payment system keep a close eye on every detail like the transaction amount, right, and the parties involved, who is paying whom, geographical data, where the payment took place, and fraud detection report like spotting and blocking the suspicious activity. So payment can be physical or online, monitoring track amount, parties, location and fraud. Benefit is security, insight is easy and historical retrieval. Now friends, let's go through the important part of the unit number 10, which is based on payment card and data security. Right. So friends, basically PCI DSS, the backbone of the payment security. It is globally accepted security standard that protect your card transaction, whether credit card, debit card or prepaid card. What is the main job of PCI DSS? To keep your sensitive data retail like number, CVV and expiry date safe from the fraud and misuse. That is role of that is role of PCI DSS, to keep your sensitive card data like number, CVV, expiry date safe from fraud as well as the misuse. Now here is something interesting. PCI DSS is not a law, right? Instead, it is a business obligation. Any company that processes or store card payment must follow the PCI DSS to ensure a secure environment. Now, who created it? It was back in the year 2004. Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover, JCB, they came together and they formed the Payment Card Industry Security Standard Council, or we call it PCI SSC. Please remember the full form. Payment Card Industry Security Standard Council, right? So in short, PCI DSS is what makes swiping your card or shopping online safe and secure. So PCI DSS is the global security standard for card payment. It protects the cardholder data from fraud. It is not a law but mandatory for business handling card. And it was created in the year 2004 by the top card network under PCI DSS. Now the question is, why compliance matter? Basically simple. It protects us from data breaches, fraud and identity theft. And when business follow it, customer feel safe and it build trust. Now let's look at the three main core principle of PCISS. Six there are. First one is a secure network and system, which means credit card payment must run on secure network with a strong firewall, right? Then we have protect the customer, obviously protect your cardholder data. Sensitive detail like SSN. There are some sensitive detail like SSN. SSN stands for scorecard cardholder information. Right, important details like SSN, phone number, addresses must be protected. And whenever this data move through, PCI DSS compliance matter. Simple. It protect from data breaches, fraud, identity theft, and when business follow it, customer feel safe. And the three core principle I told you, secure network and system, which means credit card payment must run on secure network with a strong firewall. For wireless, special firewall prevent spying, and never use default password. Always set unique strong credential. Second point is protect cardholder data. sensitive detail like SSN, phone number, addresses must be protected, right? And patch the software bug regularly. This prevent malware attack and keep the hacker out. So PC, and third one is the vulnerability management. So which means business must keep their system updated, run threat detection program, and patch software bug regularly. This prevent malware attack and keep the hacker out. So PCI DSS is not just rule; it's about keeping payment safe, reliable, and trustworthy. So remember the three words which I talked just now. Compliance, it prevent fraud and build the trust. Three core principles just now I told you. First one is the secure network with firewall plus unique password. Second one is the protect and encrypt the cardholder data. And third one is the update system plus fix bug to stop the malware. Now we have a strong access control measure. You know, we have already covered the three PCI DSS principle. Now let's finish the rest. Right, fourth one is the strong access control measure. You know, only authorized people should get sensitive card data. Every user must have a unique ID so their action can be tracked. And don't forget the physical safety like shredding the document, locking the disposal bin, and restricting the duplication. Then we have monitoring and test network. Business must constantly watch their network for any unusual activity. Regular audit, regular penetration test help catch weakness before the hacker do. Then we have to maintain an information security policy. So company need a clear security policy that everyone follow. Employees should be trained on how to handle card data safely and to stay compliant. So fourth principle was regarding the restrict access plus unique ID plus physical security. Fifth principle is regarding monitoring network plus run audit and test. And sixth principle is regarding the company-wide policy plus employee training. Now friends, let's talk about strengthening the PCI DSS compliance. Right. So the step number one is the continuous network monitoring. Scan network regularly, keep antivirus and anti-spyware updated, and perform security check on application, RAM and storage. Second, we have a strong information security policy. So basically the formal security policy, enforce audit, and implement penalty to ensure the compliance. What are the key PCI DSS requirement? Firewall protection, which means protect the cardholder data. No default password. Always use unique credential. Third is the data security. Safeguard stored card information. Then we have encryption standard. Encrypt data on public network. Then we have updated antivirus protection, which means keep antivirus software current. Secure system, which means maintain patched and safe application. Restricted access, like only authorized employee can access the sensitive data. Unique user ID, which means each system user get a individual credential. Physical security, limit physical access. And finally enforce the security policy, which means make sure that everyone follow the strict rule. So continuous monitoring plus a strong security policy, it means these are the foundation. Full QSA assessment and quarterly network scan. Level 2 is the mid-size organization. So here we have 1 to 6 million transactions per year. So you must do an ASAQ. What is SAQ? Annual self-assessment and sometimes quarterly scan. Level 3 is for a small to medium enterprise, which means to 20,000 to 1 million transactions yearly. They need annual SAQ and possibly quarterly vulnerability scan. And level 4 is the small business which have less than 20,000 transactions per year. They must complete annual SAQ and quarterly scan may be required. So PCI DSS compliance scale with business size and transaction volume, ensuring that everyone, big or small, keep payment secure. So compliance level is 1 largest to 4 smallest. Requirement is annual SAQ, right? Network scan and QSA for the top level. So remember the full form of this as SAQ and QSA, right? SAQ means annual self-assessment, right? Now what are the challenges? Some benefits are there, customer trust get enhanced, right? Data breach risk get minimized. Then fraud prevention, it reduces the fraud risk. And industry compliance, it demonstrates commitment to security based practices. But there are some challenges also. So basically the challenge that business face with the PCI DSS compliance, the first one is the complex implementation. Security rules are extensive and can be tough to understand, especially for small businesses. Second is the high compliance cost. Keeping systems secure, training staff, maintaining compliance can be expensive. Then we have continuous monitoring and update. Security is not a one time thing. Regular assessment, testing, update, these are required, which take times and obviously effort. And finally, evolving cyber threat. Hacker and cyber risk are always changing. So business must adapt to the new threat and update standard. So in short, we can say that PCI DSS compliance is essential, but require dedication, resource, and constant vigilance. Right. So challenges are complexity, cost, continuous monitoring, and evolving threat. A small business feel it but for most business, every business they must stay vigilant. And then we have talked about goal also. Now, friends, want to stay fully PSI DSS compliant? Here are the best practice that every business should follow. First one is the store only essential data, which means keep just the card holder information that you really need. So first one is storing only the essential data, right? Which means keep just the cardholder information that you really need. Second is a strong compliance program, which means define clear policy, rules, and the objectives. Set the performance metrics. Track and measure your compliance effort. Then we have annual qualified personnel, which we call AQP, which means have trained staff managing security and compliance. Go beyond PCI DSS requirement. So add extra security measures for your specific industry risk. Then continuous monitoring and testing. It means regular check system for any vulnerabilities. And finally, rapid response. Have a plan ready to handle any security breach quickly. Employee training. It ensures that staff on phishing, on scam or social engineering. Then we have rapid response. Have a plan ready. Employee training. Employee training means educate staff on phishing, scam, and social engineering. Vendor compliance. Ensure that third party provider follow the security standard. Adapt to the emerging cyber threat. Update security measures as new cyber risk appear. And finally, engage the security expert. So work with QSA, qualified security assessor, and ASB, approved scanning vendor for compliance assessment. Friends, if you think that till now the concept is clear, please hit the like button, please subscribe the channel, and hit the bell icon for getting instant notification whenever I upload the video. So let's quickly revise the key point. So we should keep only necessary data, a strong pass, a strong policy, trained staff, measurable compliance, and finally monitor constantly, respond fast, and stay ahead of the cyber threat. Now friends, let's switch our focus to the electronic card frauds. So first one is the ATM card fraud. Let's understand it. What is ATM fraud? Unauthorized use of your ATM card and PIN to withdraw money. Sometimes fraudsters even break into ATM to steal the cash directly. What are the common types? First one is the skimming, which means hidden device steal your card data, which is then used to make the fake card. Simming means a tiny device inside the card slot capture card information for misuse. Right. So skimming means hidden device. Simming means a tiny device inside the card. Then cloning. Cloning means fraudster create duplicate card using a stolen information. Older people are often targeted. Then we have card and card trapping. ATM are tampered to hold your card or cash. Then we have physical ATM attack. So ATMs are physically broken into using slow explosive or cutting machine. Right. So what are the stay safe tips? Use ATM in secure well-lit area. Cover your PIN while entering. Check for suspicious device before entering your card. So remember, a ATM fraud is unauthorized access to the card or cash. Common method include skimming, simming, cloning, trapping, physical attack, and safety tips also I told you. Now let's look at some trapping techniques. Let's learn about ATM card fraud, risk, trick, and how to prevent them. So card trapping. Card trapping means a scanner install a device that make your card get stuck. When you ask for help, they steal it. Right. Then we have keyboard jamming. So criminal disable enter and cancel password, cancel button to disrupt your transaction and take your card when you step away. So this is called card trapping. Keyboard jamming. Keyboard jamming means criminal disable the enter or scan button. Right, that is the point. Then preventive measures. How to prevent it? So basically inspect the ATM for unusual attachment or hidden device. First point. Second point, avoid using ATM in isolated area or without security. What are the preventive measures? Inspect the ATM for unusual attachment or hidden activity. Avoid using ATM in isolated area or without security. Check for hidden camera before entering your PIN. Stay alert if anyone is lingering around the ATM. So trapping means card for keypad trick. Skimming means hidden device steal card information. And prevention is checking ATM, staying alert, covering PIN, avoid isolated ATM. Now the question is, why is credit card fraud? What is credit card fraud? Let's understand. Yes, credit card fraud. So basically it is where someone uses your credit card number and the PIN without permission. Fraudster buy goods, services or transfer money to their account. What are the common methods for this credit card fraud? Like account takeover. So criminal hijack your existing card account. Second is the new account fraud, which means fraudster open new account using your stolen information. Right. Then we have the cloned card. Duplicate card are made using your card detail. Then we have CNP, card not present fraud, which means online or phone fraud where your physical card is not needed. Now the question is how fraudster steal information. Some techniques are there like phishing. Phishing means fake mail, card or message that trick you into shipping to share the card detail. Then we have skimming. Skimming means hidden device basically hidden device. What they do, they steal card data at ATM or POS machine, and data leaks are the hacked database that expose your information. So the question is how to stay safe. Yes, so follow PCI DSS standard for secure standard. Then bank use AI and machine learning. Yes, bank use AI and machine learning to detect suspicious activity. Regulation protect you from fraud loser, and be vigilant. Don't share card information and report suspicious quickly. Now we have the credit card fraud methods and prevention. So what is the meaning of credit card fraud? First is the evolving security measures. Advanced technology keep strengthening the card security. Fraudsters now face more barrier to steal your money. Type of payment card failure. First of all, we have card present fraud, less common. Stolen or cloned card used in the person. EMB chip take has reduced this a lot, right? Then we have CNP, card not present fraud, which means this is online or remote fraud using a stolen card detail from the data breaching or phishing. Most common one, online or remote fraud using a stolen card detail from the data breaching or phishing. Now how the fraud happen? Either data breach, which means millions of cardholder detail can get exposed. Delayed fraud, like a stolen card information may be misused month later, or lost or stolen card. Right. So we should monitor our statement regularly. Block the lost or stolen card immediately. Safeguard card detail. Use virtual or tokenized card for online transaction. These are the technique. Now friends, let's talk about the payment card fraud and how to protect yourself. First one is the contactless payment risk, which means tap and pay commerce convenience. So small payment without pin or signature, right? Then risk is that a stolen card can be misused for multiple small transactions before anyone notice. Then we have the fraud detection by card issuer, which means AI based monitoring. Bank track unusual spending pattern, alert big purchases far home, right? They may trigger. Fraud. First is the application fraud. What is the application fraud? Fake identities to open account or get credit. That is called application fraud. Then fraudster use cash convertible goods, right? So fake identity uses cash conversion goods. Then we have, that is the this was the application fraud. Second is the account takeover fraud. So what happened in the case of account takeover fraud? Let's understand. So in this case, criminal hijack your account, right? Credit card, bank account, every email also, right? They often use phishing or social engineering. Now then we have, so basically risk are, contactless payment, stolen card misuse. Detection is AI monitoring, alert and verification. Fraud, three types I told you: application fraud, account takeover fraud, two types. And prevention is vigilance, monitoring and quick reporting. These are the prevention technique. Now advanced fraud tactics and preventive measures. Let's uncover the advanced fraud tactics and learn how to stay safe. Identify the manipulation method. Manipulation fraud. Partial identity theft. Fraudster uses your email or phone to access the account. Intercepted notification. So they divert alert so that you stay unaware of the fraud. Then we have social engineering scam. Criminal act like the trusted people to steal money or data. Email spoofing. These are the fake email from senior staff. They trick employee into transforming the fund. So social engineering scam, what it is? Like, impersonation. Criminal act as trusted people to steal the money or steal the data. Email spoofing, which means fake email from senior staff trick employee into transferring fund. Telephone phishing. Fraudster prevent to be the bank or payment provider to steal your information. Then we have business process strategy. Dual authorization. So financial transfer need approval from the two bank official, right? Then we have the callback verification. So basically this business process strategies, right? It includes callback verification, which means always verify payment request using registered contact. Bank refund policy. It means that unauthorized payment can often be refunded if you act promptly. Then we have unexpected repeat billing period. What does it mean? So it means that recurring charges trap. A standing order or subscription can be misused. Hidden fee. Online payment may snag in recurring or fraudster charges. So these are the points. Now emerging fraud tactics. What are the emerging fraud tactics? Like a rogue automatic payment. So legitimate look subscription that continue without consent. Utility payment scam. Watch out for fake billing message asking for payment. So what we have discussed just now: identity theft and intercepted notification. Social engineering, it includes email, phone and impersonation. Now friends, let's discuss the common detective technique. Fake urgency. The scammer threaten immediate disconnection of utilities to panic you. Then impersonation, which means fraudster pretend to be utility expert using faker caller ID and logos. Then we have reloadable cards. What does it mean? So victims are asked to pay via non-traceable prepaid card. Now let's talk about the risk of information sharing. So personal detail like name, email and card information are shared daily. Online transaction often store your data, sometimes shared with the third party. And database breaches, so that hacker exploit weak vulnerability to a strong amount of help. Now what is the meaning of continuous battle against the cyber threat? So financial system evolve constantly to counter the fraud. Hacker adapt to prevent an ongoing right. So prevention is an ongoing effort. Then we have a smart card fraud. What does it mean? It is a physical card with microchip acting as a secure token. It can connect through chip and dip or other method for transaction. So always prospect your card, or whether or not it is in a bonded under trust. So smart card fraud we are talking about. You can connect card through chip and dip or other method, right? Chip and deep physical contact, or by wireless like RFID or NSIC, a smart card, right? So stay vigilant, verify all payment return, limit unnecessary data to stay safe. So scammer use urgency, impersonation and prepaid card. Your data is always at risk online. So breaches are quite common. And a smart card uses the secure bot but need careful planning. Now what is the security advantage over the magnetic stripe card? You know it that basically unique token generation. Every transaction create a unique encrypted code. Chip based authentication, which means is safer than old magnetic stripe card. Pin purchases, pin protection. What is the meaning of pin protection? So it means extra layer to prevent the unauthorized access. Type of a smart card. First one is POS, that is called point of sale terminal, right? So use in the store for direct payment. EMB technology encrypt data, reduce the fraud risk. Watch out, old magnetic stripe POS terminal or merchant setup error can still be vulnerable. Then we have backward compatibility risk. So if the POS terminal still use old magnetic stripe card reader, fraud vulnerability increase. That is called POS technique. So merchant configuration error. These are the points. So how to protect your card is smart card safe fraud. Sign your card immediately. Keep your PIN confidential. Enable SMS and OTP alert. Monitor your statement. Save customer service contract. Avoid non-EVM intent terminal. So friends, that is all we need to learn in the chapter number unit number 10, right? So we have covered the module module C completely in this particular lecture, and I will again begin with the module D. If you want me to bring the module D quick